Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan UFC 259, 2021. If you thought title fights could only end with a KO or submission, think again, because the UFC 259 main event pulled off one of the weirdest finishes in UFC history. The bout between Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan became a textbook example of how not to win a belt. Sterling entered the fight as the challenger and Yan as the reigning champion. While Yan was dominating, two judges had him ahead. The other had it even or close. Then, in round 4, Yan landed a head knee on Sterling while he was downed, an unequivocally illegal strike under the unified rules. The doctor said Sterling couldn't keep fighting, and the referee decided Yan's knee was intentional. So Sterling won the title by disqualification. It sounds silly, but here we are. A championship changed hands by a single errant moment. Many fans called it a cop-out. They claimed Sterling was milking the injury, playing the victim so the ref would stop the fight and hand him the belt. Compare that to fights where the challenger simply outworks the champ. This one didn't feel right. Sterling himself didn't do your typical ring celebration. He removed the belt, laid down on the mat, staring at the canvas. He later admitted it wasn't the way he wanted to win. Meanwhile, Yan took responsibility by admitting his mistake, but the damage was done. So the next time someone tells you a belt always means you beat the best. Remember that in this sport, the rules can win you the crown. Ciryl Gane versus Tom Aspinall, UFC 321. If you thought titles get handed out on technicalities, buckle up, because the UFC showdown between Ciryl Gane and Tom Aspinall turned into one of MMA's all-time cop-out matches. And just like the weird finish in the UFC 259 clash between Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan that we just covered, this fight veered off script in brutal fashion. During the match, Gane came out sharp, landing strikes and owning the distance. Aspinall responded with his usual power kicks, and blood started showing on his nose. Then, as the first round wound down, Gane extended his hand to block or strike. Either way, his fingers poked Aspinall's eyes. Aspinall couldn't see, and the fight ended as a no contest. It sounds absurd, but an eye poke can null a fight. Meanwhile, there are challengers grinding it out round after round. Here we had two heavy hitters, title on the line, and the outcome decided by accident. The stench of a cop-out hung in the air. Many boarded the Aspinall folded train, and others argued the fact that it's probably not a cop-out when the eyes shut. No doubt both sides have a point. Gane himself said he didn't do it on purpose, and even referenced his own eye poke history. But Aspinall's team questioned why the rule didn't punish Gane more severely. In the end, the promotion promised a rematch, but this is not the only cop-out fight in the UFC. Connor McGregor versus Nate Diaz UFC 196, 2016. While Chael Sonnen's slip looked like a self-destruct button, Connor McGregor's first loss to Nate Diaz was a full-blown detonation. The kind that breaks the internet, spawns memes, and rewrites legacies overnight. No one expected the biggest star in MMA to tap faster than a button mash on a controller. It sounds wild, but that's exactly what happened at UFC 196. McGregor walked in like a movie villain written to win. He was untouchable, undefeated in the UFC, and fresh off starching Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. As for Diaz, he got the call on 11 days' notice. Every betting line, every press conference, every McGregor monologue was a sign of mismatch. But that's the beauty of fighting. Reality doesn't always follow the script. Round 1 went according to plan. McGregor was sharp, accurate, clowning with his hands behind his back. Then, round 2 hit like a plot twist. Diaz landed a stiff 1-2, the kind that made Connor's legs look like they had been unplugged from Wi-Fi. Suddenly, the king of confidence was wobbling. He shot for a takedown, and Diaz pounced on him. With a rear-naked choke and one squeeze later, the Irishman tapped fast. Meanwhile, fans accused him of quitting too quickly, but many others said it was smart, as he lived to fight another day. Still, optics matter. McGregor's aura of invincibility cracked that night, replaced by humility and a bruised ego. The rematch flipped the story, of course, as McGregor's decision win at UFC 202 avenged everything. But that first tap? It's still remembered. Greg Hardy versus Tai Tuivasa, UFC 264, 2021. If McGregor's tap against Diaz hurt his aura, Greg Hardy's collapse against Tai Tuivasa at UFC 264 destroyed one, and it happened fast. The UFC's self-proclaimed Prince of Violence once face-planted after throwing his own knockout punch. Now that sounds like a meme, and it kind of became one, but let's take a few steps back. Hardy, a former NFL defensive end turned heavyweight prospect, walked into that fight talking big. With power, speed, and intimidation, he had the full alpha package. Tuivasa, on the other hand, was the barefoot brawler from Western Sydney, known for chugging beer from shoes and punching faces for fun. On paper, it was chaos waiting to happen. The opening seconds looked promising for Hardy. He landed a solid right hand that stunned Tuivasa. For a moment, it looked like Hardy might close the show. Then, in one of MMA's most poetic reversals, Tuivasa fired back with a left hook. Hardy hit the mat, turtled up instantly, and it was over in just 67 seconds. Hardy got accused of quitting as soon as he got touched. In a division built on grit and chaos, folding that quickly felt unforgivable. It sounds harsh, but perception in the UFC is ruthless. Get rocked, and suddenly you are not a warrior, but a quitter. To his credit, Hardy later said he simply never recovered from the counter. Maybe it's true, but in a sport that worships toughness, explanations don't always save reputations. Tuivasa celebrated with a shoey while Hardy's stock nosedived. Ronda Rousey versus Amanda Nunes, UFC 207, 2016. Did you know the most feared woman in UFC history once came back and forgot to throw a punch? It sounds impossible, but that's exactly what happened when Ronda Rousey returned at UFC 207. 1 year off, one press blackout, and one reality check that confidence doesn't respawn after a knockout. If Greg Hardy's collapse was a quick crumble, Rousey's was a full psychological shutdown. She walked into that cage like a ghost of her former self with no stare-down intensity, no swagger, no fire. The crowd was ready for the rowdy comeback story. Instead, they got a slow-motion car crash in real time. Amanda Nunes didn't just beat Rousey. She exposed the myth. As the first clean right hand landed, Rouse panicked. In 48 seconds, it was over. The ref stepped in. Ronda's face was blank, and the legend that once ruled women's MMA evaporated under the bright lights. Everyone called it a cop-out, a mental one at that. Ronda looked done the second the fight began. After Holmes' head kick destroyed her aura, this comeback wasn't courageous. It sounds harsh, but MMA doesn't forgive ghosts, and Rousey's reign didn't end with a bang or a choke or even a fluke. It ended with a few seconds hit. Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler 2, UFC 266, 2021. Did you know one of MMA's biggest bad boys once just quit mid-fight? No injury or knockout. He just simply told the ref he is done. It sounds unbelievable, but that's exactly what happened when Nick Diaz returned at UFC 266 after 6 years away. The same Stockton fighter who once taunted opponents mid-round and flipped off legends suddenly waved off his own comeback. While Ronda Rousey's meltdown was psychological burnout, Diaz's was pure existential surrender. He didn't crumble, so he opted out. The opening rounds were classic Diaz chaos, high-volume punches, constant pressure, that trademark slap-boxing rhythm. But by round 3, reality caught up. Robbie Lawler, his old rival from 2004, was walking him down, landing heavy hooks, and the miles on Diaz's body were starting to show. Then, the moment. Lawler clips him. Diaz falls. The ref gestures him up, and he doesn't move. He looks up, shakes his head, and gives up. That was it. No dramatic knockout, no corner stoppage, just a quiet refusal from a man who once fought like pain was a religion. Fans were torn, but some called it dignity, and others saw it as the ultimate cop-out. The same Nick Diaz who mocked quitters in the cage just handed in his resignation slip live on pay-per-view. In a sport built on ego and endurance, Diaz's surrender hit differently. The cult hero who used to weaponize chaos met the one opponent he couldn't outlast. It turns out that sometimes the hardest fight to win is the one with your own will. Brock Lesnar versus Alistair Overeem, UFC 141, 2011. If you tell someone Brock Lesnar quit from a single body kick, they will think you are trolling. But that's exactly what happened at UFC 141, when the WWE megastar turned UFC heavyweight folded under Alistair Overeem's left leg like a lawn chair in a hurricane. And this wasn't just any fight. It was the grand comeback of Lesnar's return from diverticulitis, a stomach disease that nearly killed him. It was hyped as the redemption of the beast, but instead of redemption, fans got revelation. The aura was gone, the fear was gone, and when Overeem planted that liver kick, the fight and the myth was gone with it. Lesnar had been built up as an unstoppable force, part athlete, part monster, all marketing. But in reality, that kick was simply a reality check that biology doesn't care about pay-per-view buys. Overeem didn't even need to follow up much. Just a few punches as Brock turtled up, offering zero defense. Herb Dean had no choice as the fight was over and his legacy was dented. In the face of most casuals, it looked like Lesnar just gave up. But to purists, it looked like a man's body and spirit finally saying no more. Minutes later, Brock grabbed the mic and retired on the spot, walking away without drama, without tears. It wasn't a knockout or a submission. It was a surrender and a literal, visible cop-out. So the next time someone calls Lesnar a monster, remember, one liver kick turned the beast incarnate into the beast retired.